Hey Mel. Okay, instead of taking still pictures, I thought what I'd do is a video for you so you can see live action, sorta, on repairing the table here of yours. And this assembly, the legs and this short apron here, have already been repaired and glued back into position. If you notice now, if I'm using my left hand here to move the leg, it's nice and firm both ways. And the process of doing that before I can glue the short apron to these legs, they have to be removed. And over here on this end, you can see where that has already been removed. And the hide glue that was used has to be removed in order for the new glue to adhere and be a firm joint. So all of this has been scraped down using a sharp putty knife, and so all that glue has been, the hide glue has been removed. And so now I've taken that assembly over here to this other workbench, and at some point in time a person has tried to do a repair or to strengthen it by driving 2 nails into the tongue. The tongue is that part that I just showed you is sticking out that goes into a mortise, which is a hole. Anyway, these nails have to get pulled out, and if I hold the camera and I can move the leg, you can see it's really loose. And once those nails are removed, then I can drive the leg away from the tongue on this short apron and clean those up and glue it back together. Now, over here on the stretcher, the laterals, which are these guys here, I showed you in the still pictures earlier where the tongues were almost ready to go together, and this is glued back together, so these are nice and tight. But one of the tongues, like this guy here on the leg I'm fixing to show you, was snapped off. And by snapped off, I mean it was that part was left in one of the legs over there. And so this is an integral part of this lateral here. Whoever made this table cut these out so that this part here was effectively an extension of the main lateral here. But since it snapped off, there's no way to glue a piece, like cut a piece and just glue it right in there and be firm on the idea that it's going to hold. So what I had to do is take a template, a piece of paper or cardboard, and lay it on this one and mark this out along with this tongue, because this is coming in on such strange angles that it would be hard for me to develop those angles on this one I'm fixing to show you. And so what I did was I made a template, and I drew the line, and then if I flipped it over, it would be this. And so I developed that line from that tenon there, that's called a tenon. Developed those lines, and with my template here, after I flipped it over, now I have those lines developed there. So I can just see right now this is just flopping. This is just hanging out there by itself. So what I do is take the bandsaw, cut down these lines here, and then chisel out to this line here, and I'll put a what they call a floating tenon in there. And that will allow me to put this back together once the other assembly is repaired, and then those tenons that I just showed you slip into those mortises there, and then the two on the assembly that I've got over there on the other bench. So I'm gonna pull those nails, separate the legs from that short apron, and I'll pick this video up as I get a little bit further and show you more about what's going on there. See you in a bit. Okay, Mel, here we are about 15 or 20 minutes later. Excuse me. And I've got the legs pulled apart from the short apron, and I can show you why I believe that this table is not a factory. I'm believing that this is some persons, like I suggested in an earlier email, that this is a one-off, which means that one person did it one time, or maybe I didn't. Oh, I was talking to my woodworking colleagues, sorry. A one-off is described as a piece of furniture that somebody has made just one time, and that person would have used whatever materials that he had available. And I've noticed in this table that there's several different species of wood and different finishing techniques, like this apron here as opposed to the leg here, which is lighter, and this is darker, which would be inconsistent with or be consistent with the discolor or the color pattern on the tabletop itself. And this is easy to understand, but here's why I say it's not a factory. This mortise here would have received this tenon, and if you notice, you see it's nice and shiny here. Well, when this leg is against this apron, the surface of this here is almost to the edge of this leg, and you can see how it's nice and shiny. So that tells me that the finish was applied before this table was assembled. And the reason that this, if you look, you can see that it's really rough there, which is indicative that a person, whoever tried to put the repair, remember those corner blocks that was in there? The person that tried to do that repair scraped this off so that the hide glue would stick to this, but the corner block would not be able to stick, was not sticking to this at all because of, well, the way it was going in there. On the other side you wouldn't see it, but the other side is where the corner, well, I can turn it over. That's pretty clean, so that's where that corner block would have gone, and so that makes sense. But so that means, that tells me that this leg was pre-finished before this was assembled. And if you look down in there, see if I can get a light down in there for you. And if you look down in there, you can see, well, maybe you can't. I'm doing my best here. It's one man video progress. You can see all of the rough glue. That's what hide glue does. Hide glue is melted. It's made from animal hides, and it's warmed in a pot, and they apply it. But that's the reason why these glue joints failed, is because none of this, it was pre-finished before they put it together. So I got to clean out all these mortises, clean out these tenons. If you look down here, you can see where the buildup of the hide glue is, especially on the ends. So that needs to get scraped off, and especially on these shoulders here, where that's called the shoulder, and these are the cheeks. That needs to get scraped down so it's nice and clean, so when the glue gets put back on there and then clamped together, it'll be a nice and tight joint. I had to take in, because these nails were set so deep in there, I had to take and drill a recess. Those will get plugged back so you barely see them. I'll try to get the grain going oriented right. But anyway, that's how it goes, and that's where I'm at. And I'll get these cleaned up, get it glued back together, and I'll have to let it set 24 hours, and then I can start to reassemble this, and then we can get to refinishing the tops. Talk to you later. Alrighty, we're about 20 minutes or so since the last time I was on here, and this mortise and the area that the apron goes against on this leg has been scraped down to the bare wood. And here's some more of those witness marks I was telling you about. And if you look down in the mortise there, you can see that it's cleaned out and the tenon has been cleaned. And I do that with a well, not in the mortise, but on the tenon here, a putty knife that's sharpened, not sharp like you think of a blade, but sharpened on a flat. It leaves a burr so that it scrapes the glue. And you can see the difference between this end being nice and clean, and if I flip it over, you can see that this has not been cleaned and the glue is still on the end of the tenon there. And so that will get cleaned up next, and then I get to put it together. But at the same time, I have to clean these mortises out that accept the tongues or the tenons that are on your stretcher assembly there. Those are what slip into these mortises here. And also, there's another indicative part that I think that this was not factory. It's because the finish is also behind those angled joints there. The finish behind what gets bumped up against these legs has got finish behind it. So this is obviously someone's project. They did a very good job, especially with the design of the table leaves over there, which, like I told you from the beginning, that was very strange. I had never seen anything like that before. So I'm gonna say that Harry somebody did this while he had nothing to do in his barn through a long winter and built a table. Well, I'm not gonna video the cleaning up of this or showing you that it's just be a duplicate of what I've already done. But I'll get it cleaned up, get it glued back together, then I can reassemble the whole thing. I'll pick that up during the reassembly time. Thank you. Hi Melody. So this is August 24th, and it's been a couple of days since I was able to get back on this table. I had some other things to do out in the field. I've got the stretcher and the laterals all glued together, and now it's time to glue them to the other leg assembly that will, be like that one, except that the mortises over there and the tops of the legs will slide on these tenons here and here. And it might seem kind of peculiar to the onlooker of how this is going together. You would think that you'd put one piece and the next piece, and then instead of doing it all at once. What I've got done here is, if you see those tenons up there, that little guy sticking out there, well, there's one, that's the one I had to put back in because it was broke off. And so this assembly is glued and now fastened to those legs, and a little bit of a clamp pressure there to kind of spread it out some. And it's not an easy thing to put back together. It wasn't an easy thing to take apart either. Well, yeah, it was. I lied because it was broke. But essentially what happens is this thing gets stood up, and the mortises there get slid onto the tenons, and then as it slides in, these ends here will get forced into those mortises there, and that's going to take two people, some guy to stand back here where I'm at, and then me at that end guiding and directing and making sure that the tenons go into Morris's property. The legs have to be spread out. That's the way this thing is made, with all of those weird angles cut up there. Let's see. With that weird angle like that you see cut, makes it, I mean, it just doesn't slide in there. You got to be really finicky with it. So I just got done gluing, putting the glue on this and clamping it, so it's got to set for 24 hours. I don't like to rush gluing. It makes no sense, because if you break the joint, you get back to square one. So that's the reason why I have a 24-hour rule. And tomorrow morning I'll take the clamps off and get my buddy Jim over here to help me slide this thing together, and then we can clamp it from here to there, and from there, basically like you see right here. So, okay, and that's all I got to show you right now. I'll put this first video up so you can get what's happening, but it's going, and as soon as this is all together and the base is done, then I'll strip the tops and we'll be off and running. Talk to you in a while.